The Senate Committee on Government Affairs will come to order. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Daley. Here. Senator Ellison. Senator Krasner. Senator Neal. Senator Orenshaw.
Here.
Senator Rogich. Chair Flores.
Present. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Please let the record reflect we have 6 members present. We do have a quorum. Please mark Senator Neal as absent excused. Good afternoon, everyone, to the Senate Committee on Government Affairs. It's great to see everybody. Because we have a couple of things that are going on in the building, particularly we have an event that's going on outside, we're going to try to accommodate everybody's schedule. So we are going to take the agenda out of order. We'll start off with Senator Doñate's bill, Senate Bill 325, and then we'll take the other bills kind of out of order depending on when folks can come in and out of the building, particularly those who want to testify in support of bills. I want to make sure we accommodate them. Also, we do expect to meet on Wednesday of this week and Friday of this week. We're trying to keep Fridays as light as possible to give everybody time to get back to their families and allow for our members who need to drive far to do that. So we'll be at the call of the chair on Friday. I just want to make sure everybody's aware of that. I know we're scheduled for 3:30, but if there's the opportunity to meet earlier than that, we intend to do so. On Wednesday, we will most likely follow the time of 3:30 and kind of respect that, but Friday we'll be at the call of the chair. I wanted to just give everybody a heads up. I want to remind those of you who are going to be testifying, please state your name for the record after each and every question. For those of you who will be testifying today, please make sure you provide your business card to our committee secretary should we need to contact you later for minute purposes. And then also those of you following along, please know that we do plan on having a limiting testimony in support, opposition, and neutral to 2 minutes. As a sign of respect to everybody, just please know that I'll notify you immediately once we hit the 2-minute mark so that you can do your last kind of sentence and close it up. With that, at this time, I'd like to open up the hearing on Senate Bill 325. Senator Doñate, welcome. Whenever you're ready, sir.
Thank you, Chair Flores, and good afternoon to the Senate Committee on Government Affairs. For the record, my name is Fabian Doñate, and I represent Senate District 10 in Las Vegas. I come today to speak on Senate Bill 325, a bill that waives the adoption fee for pets for veterans, law enforcement officers, and first responders. Today, I'm joined by my good friend, Ms. Samantha Vivens. Today, we'll quickly go over the bill language, background, and the provisions of this bill. Senate Bill 325 is an act relating to animals. It requires a governing body of a county or incorporated city and certain nonprofit organizations that operate an animal shelter to establish a program to waive the adoption fee of certain pets adopted by a person who is a veteran, law enforcement officer, or first responder, and requiring the Department of Veteran Services to submit a report to the legislature concerning such programs. A little bit about the background of this bill. In 2020, the Pets for Vets Act, SB 245, took effect in California, allowing veterans with a valid veteran's driver's license to adopt any cat, dog, or rabbit for free. The program received a surge of positive feedback, and veterans in Nevada are eager about the possibility of the same bill being introduced in this state. Owning pets, especially dogs and cats, has been shown to improve veterans' mental health. Veterans report feeling calmer, less lonely, and more secure when they have a dog by their side. The benefits are particularly strong for those with PTSD, leading to better self-care, increased completion of household tasks, and meaningful reductions in PTSD symptoms with assistance dogs. At the same time, shelters are facing an overflow of pets in need of a loving or caring owners, and pairing veterans with these animals creates a mutually beneficial relationship, improving veterans' mental health while also giving pets a stable home. With that being said, SB 325 requires counties and cities with animal shelters to establish a program waiving adoption fees for veterans, law enforcement officers, and first responders to the extent that funding allows, and nonprofit shelters that receive county or city funding must also implement a similar program. And then lastly, by connecting veterans, law enforcement officers, and first responders with pets in need, we create a cycle of support that benefits both the individuals and our heroes. And so really quickly on, before Ms. Bivens mentions her remarks, I do want to reference that there is a proposed conceptual amendment to the bill The bill now, instead of making it a shall to establish a program, a county or city may establish a program that waives the adoption fees of an animal that is 6 months or older and has been at least in 7 consecutive days. We took that recommendation based on our initial meetings from the Animal Foundation in Las Vegas, where it becomes more cost prohibitive for the cities and counties as animals stay in the shelter longer. And so we saw this as not only as a reduction in fees of getting pets out of our shelters, but also providing support to our veterans and our heroes. And then obviously the rest of the provisions just deal with reporting, et cetera. The only last thing that I want to say is I think before we had the Department of Veterans Affairs would handle the reporting requirements to the legislature. Now we say that a county or city that chooses to enact such provisions for that program, that they would be the ones that refer the data back to us in terms of how practicable or how popular the bill has been upon being signed and implemented. Chair, at this time, I would like to go ahead and pass it over to Ms. Bivens to talk more about the background of the bill.
Thank you. Please.
Good afternoon. For the record, my name is Samantha Bivens. Chair Flores and esteemed members of the committee, I'm very grateful to be here this afternoon and am excited for the opportunity to co-present this important and impactful legislation with my close personal friend, Senator Fabian Doñate. When I say that I'm an ardent and passionate supporter of our military members, veterans, law enforcement officers, firefighters, and first responders, these are not merely words to me. I am proud to say that I'm the widow of Craig, a combat Marine with the 1st Marine Division at Camp Pendleton, California. My middle son, Benjamin, is a staff sergeant currently serving with the 101st Airborne Division at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. And my partner, Lee, who is in attendance this afternoon, is a Master Sergeant in the Air National Guard 153rd Command and Control Squadron based in Cheyenne, Wyoming, who has been serving our country for almost 19 years. From 2018 through 2021, I served as a district representative for both Congressman Reuben Kuhn and Congressman Stephen Horsford, where I was responsible for the military, veterans, law enforcement, fire services, and first responder portfolios. It was during this time that I worked on hundreds of constituent cases and attended more community events than I can possibly count. Through the years, I became close with all of these groups and developed many personal bonds, so close, in fact, that my personal and professional life became one. In return, although I myself am not a veteran or a first responder of any kind, I was given a tremendous gift: the trust and faith of these men and women who put on a uniform and served or are currently serving our communities and our country. They have shared stories of trauma, debilitating injuries, death, and guilt with me. Nightmares of the loss of friends in combat and civilian casualties, which oftentimes led to the breakdown of marriages and families. All of these things and more are what cause PTSD, depression, anxiety, and addiction. Life is a series of highs and lows and successes and failures, and sometimes people come together at the perfect moment in time. That time came in December 2024 at a watch party for the Army-Navy game. As an Army mom, I was really bummed that they didn't win the game, but I was introduced to Penny Lambright, the founder of Patriots and Paws, a nonprofit organization which benefits active duty military veterans and their families in Southern California. She spoke about California's SB 245, the Pets for Vets Act, which was passed in 2020, and asked if something like it could be brought to Nevada. I read the bill and got instantly excited. Good legislation is just undeniable, and I knew we had something we could receive bipartisan support for. I reached out to Senator Doñate to pitch the bill, and he obviously jumped at the opportunity to introduce it. We convened a meeting with Hillary Gray from the Animal Foundation to discuss how the bill language could be tailored to meet guidelines specific to Nevada, which has brought us here today. To some, SB 325 is just an animal bill, but when you really read the language, it has the ability to accomplish so much. This bill can decrease euthanasia rates for sheltered dogs and cats and reduce shelter operational costs while simultaneously benefiting military service members, veterans, law enforcement officers, and first responders who are suffering from PTSD, depression, and anxiety by providing them with an animal companion. These are all realistic goals which can be achieved by shelters waiving pet adoption fees for these specific groups of individuals. According to the Animal Foundation shelter statistics for 2024, a total of 3,318 dogs and cats were euthanized last year. Statistics gathered by the Veterans Administration list 113 veteran suicides in Nevada in 2022. The Law Enforcement Suicide Data Collection reports that more law enforcement officers are dying by suicide each year due to mental health struggles than in the line of duty. The psychological and physical health benefits of service animals for veterans has been studied for years. As such, in recent years, law enforcement agencies around the country have taken note and begun to integrate therapy dogs into their forces. Some of the benefits of pet ownership include reduced PTSD symptoms and severity, improvements in emotional and social well-being, enhanced sleep quality, increased physical activity, and reduced suicidal ideation. I personally know of 15 to 20 veterans who are leading healthy, happy lives today, specifically because of their dogs, some who even credit their companions with legitimately saving their lives. The bill language stipulates that fees will be waived for animals 6 months of age or older who have been in the care of a shelter for at least 7 consecutive days. These caveats will afford older animals and others facing euthanasia due to their time terming out with an additional opportunity to find a forever home. Chair Flores and committee members, thank you for listening to my testimony this afternoon, and thank you to Senator John Yate for your desire to present common sense legislation and your wisdom in knowing that you receive the best outcomes for the entire constituency when you are willing to work across the aisle. The military, veteran, law enforcement, and first responder communities are comprised of a very unique subsection of our population. These groups are comprised of old and young. They represent all genders, all socioeconomic classes, racial and ethnic backgrounds from all over the world, and countless spiritual and faith-based practices. When you are serving these groups, you are truly serving the people. SB 325 can save lives, and there is nothing nobler than that. Thank you.
Thank you both for the presentation. I think we've multiple times have engaged in this committee on how when one member of your family serves, the entire family is serving, right? So to your family, we say thank you for their service and to your service. Members, any questions? You have a very passionate, calm committee today. I think everybody's good. Obviously, we understand the intent, and it sounds like we're very supportive as well. So thank you both for your presentation. Senator Ellison, please.
Looking at the names that's on this list, and it's quite broad. I mean, it's very good, except for our chairman's not on there. Our vice chair's not on there. Skip's not on there. I mean, should I keep going, or Lisa's not on? Yeah. It's a good bill, and I think if you send this around, I think you'd get a lot of names on there. And believe me, I know what Camp Pendleton's all about. I did a lot of knuckle push-ups out there on the grinder, so I know what your family goes through. So thank you.
Sounds like there's a proposed amendment to add all the members of the committee. That's for your consideration, Senator. I'd like to invite you both to sit back in the gallery, and I'd like to invite those to come forward wishing to testify in support. And thank you again for the presentation. Those wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 325, if you could please make your way forward, Carson City or Las Vegas. I don't see anybody in Las Vegas stepping forward. Oh, I do see somebody in Las Vegas now, but we'll start in Carson City and make our way back. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. For the record, David Cherry, Government Affairs Manager for the City of Henderson. As many of you know, the city operates its own animal shelter, and one of the things we try to do is make sure that we're able to give as many pets as we can who come into our shelter an opportunity to have a loving home. I think I couldn't say it any better than the presenters of the bill said today about the importance of finding those pets homes, and even better with this bill, they would go to homes of veterans, first responders, and our police officers. So I think this is a win-win all around. We're proud to support this bill, and we hope that you'll do the same as members of the committee. Thank you.
And thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair, committee members. Isaac Hardy, representing Humane World for Animals. Echo his comments. this is a good bill. It's going to support our veterans and encourage pet adoption. Thank you.
And thank you. Anybody else wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 325 in Carson City? Seeing none, good afternoon. We'll go to Las Vegas. And ma'am, I believe your microphone's turned off.
Thank you, Government Affairs Committee. My name is Penny Lambright, and I'm the founder, chairman, and CEO of Patriots and Paws, a veteran nonprofit based in Southern California and expanding to Nevada. In California, SB 245, the Pets for Vets Act, was enacted in 2019 and went into effect in 2020 after State Senator Ling Chang visited Patriots and Paws and saw firsthand the need that veterans had for companionship animals and the impact that those animals had on their lives. Seeing how 2 lives could be changed, she took action and began the process of creating this bill. I brought this idea to Ms. Samantha Bivens, who brought it to Senator Fabian Donate, who immediately saw the same value that California's legislation had recognized. Shelters are overwhelmed with animals waiting for forever homes, and a significant amount of money is spent housing these animals. When they weren't adopted, many were euthanized at an even greater expense. SB 325 will save money while saving 2 lives at once. Too often, these animals are discarded by their previous owners with no regard for their lives. Sadly, many of our veterans feel the same way, discarded by the communities they live in. They feel unloved, unwelcome, and in need of companionship. I am speaking of both the animals and the veterans. Dogs, in particular, love unconditionally. A veteran can share their trauma over and over, and a dog will never tire of listening. These animals play a powerful role in helping veterans cope with PTSD and improve their mental health. Our veterans have sacrificed so much by committing to fight for us and our freedom. Supporting this bill is just one more way we can say thank you for that sacrifice. We see you, we are thankful for you, and we support you. Today, I am asking that you support SB 325.
And thank you for joining us in Las Vegas. Is there anybody else wishing to testify in support in Las Vegas? Seeing none, BPS will go to the phone line, those wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 325.
If you would like to testify in support of SB 325, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, you have no callers wishing to testify in support at this time.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to invite those wishing to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 325 to please come forward, either in Carson City or Las Vegas. Seeing none, BPS will go to the phone lines again. Those wishing to testify in opposition of Senate Bill 325.
If you would like to testify in opposition of Senate Bill 325, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, you have no callers wishing to testify in opposition at this time.
Thank you. Lastly, we'll invite those wishing to testify in the neutral position to Senate Bill 325 to please come forward, Carson City or Las Vegas. Good afternoon, welcome.
Good afternoon, Chair Flores, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Cadence Matijevich, Cadencematijevich, representing Washoe County here in neutral. Want to thank Senator Donate for the amendment that he brought forward that makes this permissive for local governments. It gives the option to opt in. Some counties or cities may not have the fiscal ability to do this, so we appreciate it. And Senator, while I know that this is not a fiscal committee, I did want to note, perhaps to prevent the bill from going to the fiscal committee, to say that this amendment does remove the fiscal note that Washoe County had originally submitted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Flores. Jeff Rogan, Jeffrogan, on behalf of Clark County. I just want to ditto exactly what Ms. Matijevich said just a moment ago. This was very important to us that the amendment come through with the ability to opt in, and I want to thank Senator Donate for bringing that forward and agreeing to that amendment.
And thank you for joining us. Anybody else wishing to testify in the neutral position, if you could please come forward. Seeing none in Carson City or Las Vegas, we'll go to the phone lines. BPS, anybody wishing to testify in the neutral position for Senate Bill 325?
If you would like to testify neutral on Senate Bill 325, please press star 9 now to take your place. Chair, you have no callers wishing to testify neutral at this time.
Thank you. And with that, no, I'm getting the no. No closing remarks for Senate Bill 325. Again, thank you both for your presentation. And at this time, we'll go ahead and close out the hearing on Senate Bill 325. Next on the agenda, I see Senator Stone. Good afternoon, welcome. I'd like to open the hearing on Senate Bill 210. Whenever you're ready, Senator.
Thank you, Chair Flores and members of the committee. I'm Jeff Stone, and I represent Senate District 20 from Mesquite, including Henderson South to Laughlin. It is my absolute pleasure to present SB 210, which revises provisions related to law enforcement for certain services. With me today from Las Vegas is Constable Kenny Taylor, constable serving in Henderson. Senate Bill 210 aims to revise the fee structure for services provided by law enforcement agencies, sheriffs of each county in the state of Nevada, and constables. The bill proposes increases in various fees associated with law enforcement services, such as serving summons, taking bonds, and executing writs. The increased fees are outlined on pages 2 through 5 in the bill. These fees have not been increased, Mr. Chairman, in 20 years. Section 1, NRS 248-275, subsection 1, indicates the fees that a sheriff of each county in the state may charge and collect. Section 2, NRS 258-125, subsection 1, indicates the fees that constables are entitled for their services. There is no fiscal impact on local government or the state. The intent is to update the fee structure to reflect current service costs and ensure that law enforcement agencies are adequately compensated for their services. You will see an amendment that was submitted. We were asked to incorporate the fees from Senator Orenshaw's SB 381 bill, which changes are reflected in the amendment. I will now turn it over to Constable, God bless you, Kenny Taylor, appearing from Las Vegas.
Good afternoon, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee, and to you, Senator Stone. My name's Kenny Taylor. I'm the Chief Constable of Henderson, Nevada. As the senator spoke, the fees haven't gone up or had any change since 2002. And since that time, the cost of living and the economy, I mean, it's more than double as far as the inflation. In 2024, just our vehicle insurance alone had gone up 300% with no warning. And with these outrageous fees and stuff that are, there's costs to operate the office and to maintain the deputies to provide the services is just, it's really in need of some additional funds.
Sir, just so you know, your microphone was off. If I could have you start again, please.
Oh, from the beginning or?
No, I think we got a brief introduction. The fees have not changed in a while.
Yeah.
Costs have gone up, and then we lost you.
Okay, yeah, just the cost of doing business as far as being able to serve the public in a timely fashion, it has gone up as far as trying to maintain deputies in order to provide these services as well. The cost of fuel has gone up. I don't know if you caught it, but the cost of insurance just for our vehicles in 2024 had gone up 300%, which was something that, came upon us that was completely unexpected. Inflation has nearly doubled during the time period of the last time the fees were set in 2002. And so I believe that it is time now for us to make these changes. Most of the fees, it does not cost the public. Most of the fees that we're associated with are by large companies, law firms, and so on. Sometimes we do have eviction fees and stuff that are, are from citizens, but for the most part, it's large corporations and property owners. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator?
Thank you,
please.
Mr. Chairman. We welcome any questions that you might have. It's a very simple bill, just updating fees that haven't been updated in 20 years.
Senator, you said the magic words, very simple bill. I don't know if you jinxed it. We'll see. Senator Ellison, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Stone, for bringing this bill forward. Question I've got, isn't this something that they could have done administratively in each county?
Mr. Chairman, for the record, for Senator Ellison, no, it did require state legislation in order to enact these new fee schedules.
It seemed like that'd be something small that actually goes to a private vendor or area that them fees could have been adjusted down there. And I just hope this is going to be enough to at least break even at this process. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Members, any additional questions? No? Senator, thank you. I'm going to invite you to sit back. And at this time, I'd like to invite those wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 210 to please come forward in Carson City or Las Vegas.
Good afternoon, Chair Flores and members of the committee. My name again is Jeff Rogan, Jeffrogan, representing Clark County. This is an important bill for our counties. These fees, because they haven't been raised in 20 years, we have to subsidize with taxpayer dollars our constable's office. And I want to hit on something that Constable Taylor touched upon briefly, but generally speaking, constables and deputy sheriffs in some counties, their job is to enforce judgments that have been obtained in private civil actions. So it's some private person suing another private person or private business, obtaining a judgment that they then take to the constable to enforce, meaning to get the money that they're due from the judgment. These are things that should be borne, these are costs that should be borne by those private parties. They shouldn't be borne by the taxpayers. And so just for context, last fiscal year, Clark County subsidized our constable's office to the tune of $1.2 million. So we do need these fee increases, although it's never very popular to increase fees, in order to make sure that we're breaking even in our constable's office, and we ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Good afternoon.
Good evening, Chair, members of the committee. Adrian Hunt, ADRIANHUNT. I represent Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. We also echo the same sentiments of Clark County. We thank Senator Stone for bringing this forward, and we urge the committee to advance this bill. Thank you.
And thank you. Good afternoon. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Chair Flores, members of the committee. Jason Walker, JASONWALKER, representing the Washington County Sheriff's Office. Again, thank you, Senator Stone, for the work you've done in getting this bill brought forward. The processes in civil service are increasingly on the rise in Washoe County, and I'm sure that they will continue. Urging your support for Senate Bill 210.
And thank you. Anybody else wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 210, if you could please come forward. I don't see anybody else here in Carson City or Las Vegas. BPS, do we have anybody wishing to join us over the phone for Senate Bill 210?
If you would like to testify in support of Senate Bill 210, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 311, you are unmuted. Please continue.
Good afternoon, Chair Flores, members of the committee. For the record, Jordan Ross, Chair of the Southern Nevada Rural Constables Alliance, Nevada State Director for the National Constables and Marshals Association, and Constable of the Township of Laughlin. I want to particularly thank Senator Stone for having brought this forward, and I also appreciate Senator Orenshaw's co-sponsorship of the bill. As Constable Taylor pointed out, as well as Deputy District Attorney Rogan, we have seen significant increases in costs without seeing increase in revenue to support this. Constable Taylor mentioned automobile insurance. The fact is, across the board on risk management, workers' compensation, liability insurance, umbrella policies, these have all increased. Clearly, as he also pointed out, the cost of mileage needs to be increased because we haven't seen this. In addition to which, the more complex cases take up more time, and we need to be able to see more to, again, at least try to achieve the goal of breaking even or as close to it as we can get. I would also point out that, as Mr. Rogan pointed out, virtually all of the consumers of the services of both constables as well as the civil divisions of sheriffs are serving, for the most part, commercial clients, and that these are, again, as he said, private matters. If there are any questions regarding any specific individual fee increases, I'd be more than happy to entertain those questions. Thank you very much.
And thank you for joining us. I don't believe we have any questions. We'll go to the next caller in support of Senate Bill 210, please.
Chair, you have no more callers wishing to testify at this time.
Thank you. At this time, I'll invite those wishing to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 210, Carson City or Las Vegas. If you could please come forward. Seeing none, BPS, do we have anybody wishing to join us over the phone in opposition to Senate Bill 210?
Chair, your public line is open and working, but you have no callers at this time.
Thank you. Lastly, we'll go to those wishing to testify in the neutral position for Senate Bill 210. If you could please come forward. Seeing none in Carson City or Las Vegas, BPS, do we have anybody wishing to testify in the neutral position over the phone?
Chair, you have no callers wishing to testify neutral at this time.
Thank you, Senator Stone. Any closing remarks you may have?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Committee, for your consideration of SB 210 that seeks to modernize the fee schedule for sheriffs and constables, ensuring that the fees charged are commensurate with the services provided. This bill is crucial for maintaining the financial sustainability of local law enforcement agencies in Nevada. I urge your support and thank you for your consideration.
And thank you for joining us again. With that, we'll go ahead and close out the hearing on Senate Bill 210. The next two bills up on the agenda are mine, so I will hand over the gavel to our amazing Vice Chair Orenshaw, and we'll be doing Senate Bill 155 first, followed by Senate Bill 367. Restroom and come back in an hour, you're fine. What's that? Take the little bit.
Good afternoon, Chair Flores and Assemblyman De Silva. I'd like to open the hearing on Senate Bill 155. Please begin whenever you're ready.
All right, esteemed colleagues of the Government Affairs Committee, it's an honor to be on this side of the dais presenting Senate Bill 155. For the record, I'm State Senator Edgar Flores, proudly representing Senate District 2. I'm joined today by Assemblyman De Silva, who proudly represents Assembly District 28, which is my former district. And I've always jokingly, but honestly, I have to say it on the record, I truly believe we have an incredible human in Assemblyman De Silva, and I left that seat, and I think we got an upgrade for sure in the Assembly. So I'm just a huge fan and very much appreciate him. Also sitting in the room is former Senator Mo Dennis, who I have the tremendous honor of now being in his seat. So it's just a special day for us to have the privilege of all three of us being in the same room. Very quickly, I wanted to give everybody just some general background on Senate Bill 155. I then would like to hand it over to Assemblyman De Silva. And then lastly, and if you could please confirm if we have Isaac Velasquez joining us over the phone, who will then close out the presentation.
Thank you. Broadcasting, I just want to confirm that we do have Isaac Velasquez on the phone lines.
And if we don't,
Chair, you currently have
please
no
continue.
callers on the line.
No worries. If we have a hard time reaching him, he can always come and testify in support at the very end. No issue at all. Just so by way of context, this conversation started last session. The city of North Las Vegas is joining us in the room. They had an assembly bill where they were trying to engage in a very similar conversation. We're going to be working off of the amendment. I hope everybody has it. I just want to make sure that everybody is working off of this amendment and not the actual bill language as that's changed. But just by way of reference, the data, according to the military here in the United States, since 2001, we've had approximately over 150,000 non-U.S. citizens honorably serve in our military, engaged at times of war, and have served our country honorably. I make that point because what Senate Bill 155 looks to do is allow for non-U.S. citizens who have been honorably discharged from the U.S. military and are lawfully authorized to work in this country to apply to be members of law enforcement. Now, I want to make this point. I have had an opportunity to speak with every agency on this issue, of every agency, or better said, representatives of law enforcement. And some agencies have indicated that with the amendment, they are now in neutral. Others have indicated that they still have some concerns, and I'll allow for them to bring those up during the opposition. But I just wanted to make it abundantly clear that we have been working with them. We've notified them from the very beginning, including during the interim, that we were trying to do this bill and why we were trying to do it. Just by way of context, for those of you who are wondering, well, why are we hoping to expand the pool of candidates? What's the benefit? And what is the current rule now? INA, Immigration Nationality Act, I will reference it throughout this conversation today. There's really 4 key sections, 316, 319, 328, and 329. Those are the ones that really focus on naturalization, becoming a U.S. citizen. Just by way of kind of a simple introduction to immigration law, under INA 316 and 319, you'll see that it usually takes 5 years from the moment you become a lawful permanent resident to apply for citizenship. There's exceptions to those rules. Some of them is if you've served in the military, sometimes you can expedite that. Those go into the 328 and 329 sections. At times, if you've served in the time of war, you can also expedite citizenship, even if you're undocumented and you've served. There's a lot of cases of that where, after specific wars, where we utilize that statute to help those folk. And or just so you know, if you're married to a U.S. citizen, sometimes you can expedite it and become a naturalized citizen within 3 years. What's really important, though, to understand is this. In order for you to be lawfully authorized to work in the United States and to obtain a benefit, become a lawful permanent resident, or obtain some other immigration benefit, you must go through a Department of Homeland Security vetting and background check. It's much more intense than any background check that even law enforcement does. And the reason for that is they want to know if you have any other type of convictions or charges in different countries. They want to see if you have any pending charges here in the United States. They'll do detailed biometrics. They cross-reference between almost every single database that the United States has, including Customs and Border Patrol, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. They do their whole other extensive background check, and they just cross-reference through all of those. After you go through that very intensive background check, and you apply for continuous work permits, or you're applying for other benefits, you then again go through another background check each and every single time. In addition to that, in order for you to enlist in the U.S. military, you also go through a background check there. So now the individuals that we're talking about and we're capturing in this particular bill have gone through an intensive Department of Homeland Security background check. They've gone through the military background check. And then when they apply, they'll go through the third background check with that specific agency. And even there, if there's any flags or concerns, they simply don't have to hire them. But that candidate, in my opinion, will have gone through more intense vetting than an individual who applies for law enforcement and isn't an individual who's gone through the Department of Homeland Security vetting or a U.S. military. So every individual, as an employer, when you have one of these individuals try to apply, you know for certain that they've gone at least through two very intensive background checks before you even put them through yours. So I just wanted to make that abundantly clear to address concerns of, well, how do we know this individual's been vetted? Well, I just wanted to make that clear. That's how it would work. The only other thing is, the reason we've been so passionately advocating for this particular conversation is there's folk who have served our military, and it is a natural transition for those individuals to want to go into law enforcement. And now, granted, we previously alluded to that the process can take a few years. You can wait the 5 years or whatever it may be and simply do it then. But I just think that it's a missed opportunity, and I've always been an advocate to utilize individuals and maximize their talent exactly when we have them available. So if we have individuals who are ready to apply to become members of law enforcement, but they just haven't been able to become citizens for whatever reason, or they're not eligible yet, whatever it may be, I think we maximize the opportunity to have those candidates apply then. The other thing I wanted to make clear is that this individual will be held to a much higher standard, because unlike a U.S. citizen, should they get in trouble or commit any errors that could potentially lead to a conviction, not only would they be looking at possible termination of their job, but they're also looking at termination and being disallowed from remaining in this country, as they could be removable. So they have to adhere to a much higher standard because they can't get in trouble, not because their immigration status could put them in a scenario where they get deported. So I just wanted to make that clear, because they're, in my opinion, they're going to live to a much higher standard because they have to. Now, if I may, Mr. Vice Chair, I'd like to hand it over to Assemblyman De Silva. I don't know that everybody knows his story. He is a Purple Heart. He has honorably served this country, but I don't think you know the full story and breadth of everything he's done for this country, and more importantly, about his immigration status while he was serving our country honorably and fighting overseas.
Thank you, Chair Flores. Assemblyman De Silva, thank you for joining us today. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Vice Chair. And thank you, members of the Senate Government Affairs Committee, for having me here today. Thank you, Senator Flores, my senator. You know, he was formerly in Assembly District 28, and we also have Senator Mo Dennis here, I believe, who this is like a chain gang, it seems like. But I just really wanted to, again, before I start my commentary, hone on the fact that I was supporting this bill originally in its original language. I just was told here earlier today that the bill had been amended to a more narrowly tailored format, and I'm even more supportive of it now. So just a little bit about my own background, my own immigration story. And Senator Flores has brought me here to really expound upon my experiences in the armed services as an immigrant. You know, I came to the United States and I was undocumented until I was 13 years old, and didn't have any papers. And when I joined the service, I was a green card holder. I was a legal permanent resident at that time. And for the duration of my time in the U.S. military, in the United States Marine Corps, I was not a citizen. I was a permanent resident, a green card holder, up until the very last few months is when I finally received my citizenship. You know, as many of you know, I was deployed and served in Iraq. During this time, I was not a citizen during my deployment, and I was injured in the war. I was shot through the arm by a sniper during a combat resupply mission in Fallujah. And at that time, too, shedding blood for this nation, my nation. You know, I was not a citizen of that nation. I would not have been able to vote or do any of those things, hold office, none of that. Those sort of privileges that are held by American citizens. While I was in Iraq, I was handling sensitive intelligence data. We would get intelligence briefings about troop movements, about where the enemy was positioned, where we believe the enemy was moving along our convoy routes. I was privy to sensitive communications data. I mean, I had on my radio the ability to contact F-18s that were flying above head to call in airstrikes. I transported all kinds of sensitive material, including arms and munitions, throughout the area of operation in the Al-Anbar province that I was in, the Fallujah, Ramadi, Habaniya, Al-Assad area in central and western Iraq. And I was not a citizen at the time. So the work that I was doing, and many folks, who are, who have, been making opposition statements against this bill have been saying should be only in the realm of a U.S. citizen. Only U.S. citizens should be allowed to do that type of work. I was doing that type of work at the very front lines of our security efforts for this nation in a war zone as a non-citizen. So after I was injured, I spent I spent some time in a hospital. I was at Balboa Navy Hospital, and I had a case worker, assigned to me. And their job was to pretty much transition me out. I had a pretty significant injury. My arm was pretty much blown off. It had to be reconstructed. And they asked me, what can we do for you? What are some of the things that we can help you towards as you, transition into the civilian world? And I told them there's two things. I want to see my parents more, if you can just get them here to San Diego. And then number two, I want to become a United States citizen. And it took some time, but before I left the armed services, literally about six months before, I was able to raise my right hand and take that oath and become a U.S. citizen. And I was I was one of many who served in my platoon, not just the company, but at the very basic level, a platoon who wore green card holders at the time. I know that Senator Flores and I go a long way back. He knows some of those individuals who served in that role. We were reservists who went to war from this community. And many of them wanted to come back and serve in law enforcement, but just couldn't. Eventually, all of us became citizens, but we weren't able to, now extend that service that we had already exhibited to this nation, to our own community. I myself too wanted to look into law enforcement as a career or firefighting before I deployed to Iraq, and that was one of my plans too. Once I got up, but there was always that inhibitor here, saying that I just wouldn't be able to serve because I was not a citizen. And that was my plan. So my whole goal was get my citizenship and then become go into law enforcement. Of course, that didn't work out because I was injured. I'm disabled. I can't use my left hand, and that really prohibited me from going into law enforcement. So I went into teaching, as a way, in the end of also, extending my service to this country and to this community. So, I am of the strong sort of understanding and a strong belief that this is one place where I think we could look at reevaluating our eligibility requirements for law enforcement. For those who have been honorably discharged from the United States Armed Services, who have the training, who have the extensive security background checks, who have the desire to serve and the sense of duty, that this is a sort of reform that we could make to current law, to allow folks who have already given so much to this country to be able to then also give back to their communities as law enforcement officers. Thank you. Thank you, committee.
Thank you. And with that, Vice Chair, we are open for questions. Senator Edgar Flores for the record.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Assemblyman Silva. Thank you for sharing your personal story, and thank you for your bravery and your courage fighting for our country. And thank goodness you came back alive. Members, any questions for the Chair or Assemblyman Silva? I see Senator Daley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I know you spoke, Assemblyman, to some of the other people that came back that were also green card holders. Were they honorably discharged when they got out?
Ruben De Silva for the record. Thank you, Senator, for that question. Yes, all of them were honorably discharged. It's just that during this time we did have backlogs. We were trying to expedite citizenship requirements. I know that the Bush administration had actually looked to also help expedite the citizenship applications of folks who were serving, in the armed services. And then especially when the war, expanded, the wars both in Afghanistan and Iraq, this became a priority. So the process is a little bit more expedited today. But at that time, it did take years for folks who would, come out of, high school, join the armed services, could go through a whole four-year, even 6-year enlistment, and not be citizens. Eventually, the citizenship would come about. But they were all honorably discharged, but in the end, in that scenario, would not be able to become law enforcement officers upon that discharge.
Well, and that was the other part of my question because I was looking at the existing language, right, before any changes, and it says only citizens, so you guys weren't citizens, or wards of the United States. And then it had, or who have been honorably discharged from the military service of the United States may be employed as an officer. So if you, citizen or not, the existing law already said you could, but they still prohibited, they still said no?
Yeah, I'll take that. Thank you for the question, Senator Edgar Flores, for the record. It was not my understanding that they would allow an individual who's been honorably discharged presently, who is not a U.S. citizen, to join law enforcement. And that's what's been conveyed to me by law enforcement themselves.
Yeah, and it sounds like there's probably some confusion there, but the way I read it is if you were honorably discharged, because as you said, you don't have to be a citizen to serve. It takes time once you get out, and as long as you're honorably discharged, I think this language would have allowed the honorably discharged person, but it wouldn't allow anyone else that was legally employable in the U.S., which I think is a little bit of an expansion, which is not bad. I'm just saying that we're touching on two things here. I was just trying to make the point is, if there's somebody trying to say, oh, this is terrible, we shouldn't do this, I said, we've been doing it a long time already, at least in theory.
Thank you. Senator Ellison, I believe, had a question.
I figured you remember that. I do have a question. Maybe the police would do it, but you'll still have to go through post and the training that every officer has to go through. And I think when you come out of post, you're all ready to hit the street and ready to go. You're already a citizen, so not much more you can ask of you. So I think the big thing is make sure that, post is available and some of the other things that the Las Vegas will require. I guess that's where you're going to be an officer at, right? Or try.
Thank you, Senator Ellison, for that question. Senator Edgar Flores, for the record, through you, Vice Chair, I just wanted to make it abundantly clear that any individual that is captured under this particular bill would have to undergo every other requirement that every other applicant would have to, on the physical training requirement, the background check requirement, the any type of examination or any requirement imposed on any other applicant, they would have to go through that. And to be abundantly clear, should this bill pass, there's nothing that disallows law enforcement from denying an applicant. They're not obligated to have to treat them differently or give them a different point system. They're going to be treated exactly like every other individual. This only opens the door to allow them to apply, and then law enforcement will decide whether or not that candidate is a good fit or not.
Please go ahead, Senator Ellison, follow up.
A lot of the people don't realize that World War I was getting into this, and World War II was massive. Anybody that come into the country could earn their citizenship by serving this country faithfully, and that's what you've done, so thank you.
Thank you. Members, any additional questions? Senator Rogich.
Thank you for coming today. It's always nice to see you, Assemblymember. With regard to when they're honorably discharged, are they already in the process of seeking citizenship when they apply for the police department?
Thank you for that question, Senator Rogich. Senator Edgar Flores, for the record, through you, Vice Chair. So we presently, not everybody is in line to become a U.S. citizen, either because they haven't applied, they don't know that they can utilize the benefit that the military provides, and or at times there are scenarios where they don't want to be a citizen, but it's because they're working in special operations. A simple example would be they have a citizenship to a country that we're in conflict with, and they don't want to have the dual citizenship because the other country will make them lose their citizenship. At that time, strategically, they may not. The U.S. allows for dual citizenship, but other countries may not. So strategically, at times, for purposes of operations and missions, they may choose not to become a U.S. citizen at that time and will have to wait for afterwards. And sometimes that's just a strategic move. But in most scenarios, when you don't have a citizen, it's because they don't know that they're eligible to take advantage of that benefit.
Please go ahead, Senator Rogich, follow up. And please go direct to Chair and to Assembly Member.
Thank you,
Silva.
Vice Chair. So when an individual applies for the police force, will that be a requirement that they do become a citizen at some point?
Thank you for that question, Senator Edgar Flores. For the record, no. That when they apply for the police force, they would just have to go through the regular kind of requirements that are imposed presently on every other individual, but there would not be an additional requirement for that individual.
Ruben De Silva, for the record, that's also a good question that you're asking there, Senator. So if you look at some other states, there are other states who allow green card holders, regardless of veteran status, to serve, in law enforcement. I think a good example is the NYPD. New York City now is a city that has a very strong immigrant character and has for a very long time. They allow non-citizens to become police officers. They prefer U.S. citizens, but they have opened a door for green card holders to apply and become officers. They do mandate, though, that you also have to begin a process to become a U.S. citizen, while you're doing this. But again, it's dependent upon the different jurisdictions. I don't believe that the way that the law is written here that would be applicable in this scenario, though.
Thank you very much. Any additional questions, members? Okay, I'm not seeing any additional questions. Broadcasting, I was wondering if, I believe it's Mr. Velasquez. I wonder if he might have joined us now.
Chair, I have two callers on the line. I will ask for him. Mr. Isaac Velasquez, if you could please press *9 if you are on the phone. Thank you, Chair. We now have him connected.
Thank you.
Vice Chair.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Mr. Velasquez. Thank you for joining us via telephone. Please state your name for the record and please proceed with your testimony in support of Senate Bill 155.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we sure can. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, good afternoon, Mr. Vice Chair. My name is Isaac Velasquez. First and foremost, I'd like to apologize. I'm actually out here in Virginia at the moment, attending BOLIC as an officer course, basic officer leadership course. And essentially, and this is why it's a little bit late out here, so that's why I'm a little bit, and it's my first time in the committee, so I'm kind of nervous a little bit. But basically, I think that one of the bigger issues that we come across is that we have a lot of people in the military, specifically like myself, where I was undocumented until I was about the age of 19. And a lot of us are very patriotic towards this country since we were born and raised here. And one of the biggest things that, as you're growing up, you tend to get pushed towards you is that you want to be a police officer, a fireman, or an astronaut, or something of that type of workforce. It has always been my dream to join the military. And when I got my residency, I was finally able to do it. But I would have wished to have the opportunity, and a lot of my friends have felt the same. And I have a couple of testimonies from other friends of mine that have been in the military and have not been in the military. But the residency part, I feel, is something that not only helps a lot because when you look at servicemen like Ruben De Silva, for a while, right, it was very getting your resident or becoming a citizen from being in the military wasn't always a quick process. So in that meantime, it was something that we needed to make sure that we had before we applied. But given the circumstances today, we're fortunately that maybe it might take a little bit quicker, but we never know in the future how that might be. We might get an administration that decides to hold a lot of citizenship pathways, and people will still be in the military, could potentially still be in the military and be maintained as residents. So that's one of the concerns that I would have in this scenario, and as to how we can expedite the process to have them serve their communities as police officers potentially in the future. And I also believe that this type of of acceptance for residents can really, really help with essentially enhancing community representation, specifically in communities where we have a lot of residents that maybe some citizens won't always know what these residents are going through. But that's pretty much the gist of what I was thinking. But yeah, thank you guys.
Mr. Velasquez, thank you very much for your testimony. Thank you for your service to the nation and the military, and appreciate your being part of the presentation. Members, any questions for Mr. Velasquez? No questions. With that, I'd like to, Chair, unless there's anyone else you'd like me to call on, I'd like to open it up for support.
Thank
of
you.
Senate Bill 155. Thank you for the presentation. I'll start here in Carson City. Anyone who'd like to speak in support of Senate Bill 155, please come forward, state your name for the record, and proceed.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Pio Rejas, P-I-O space R-E-J-A-S, and I'm here to express my strong support for AB 155, which expands the eligibility of peace officers to include individuals who are legally authorized to work in the United States under federal law. I wasn't aware of the amendment, so I will stick to the first one, which I also support. This bill is deeply personal to me. My grandfather was a police officer, and his dedication to serving and protecting his community introduced me in a lifelong commitment to helping others and pushing for meaningful change. His ideals of service and justice live on in me, and I always wanted to follow in his footsteps to protect the peace just like my hero did. When I came to this country, I wanted to become a law enforcer, to serve my community with honor and integrity. Unfortunately, because of, from my understanding, outdated restrictions, that path was impossible for me. Instead, I chose to study political science, a field that I have grown to love because it allows me to advocate for the changes that truly matters, changes like AB 155. As a lawful permanent resident, I find it ridiculous to think that people like me who live here, contribute to our communities, and follow the law would be denied the opportunity to protect and serve. Public safety is about dedication, integrity, and the willingness to step up for our communities. It should not be restricted by outdated policies that exclude highly qualified individuals based on their immigration status. Protecting our community should be about one thing: ensuring that those who are ready and willing to serve can do so. I asked this committee to pass AB 155 so that people like me and many others can have the opportunity to uphold peace and protect others. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Appreciate it. Good afternoon. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Good evening. My name is Tessie Angel Ramirez, TEISSYANGEL, space RAMIREZ. I'm in full support of SB 155. Due to the facts that Senator Flores mentioned, we do have to follow a lot of procedures. Yes, I'm not under like the military, but I am an undocumented individual, but protected with DACA. We have to go through the background check. But not only that, individuals that have gone through the system should have that opportunity to also be able to contribute into society. It will also benefit Nevada and also their families. We do see a lot of individuals that are seeking for jobs in our community, and I'm fully advocating for those individuals that are, out of the workforce, and it's a great opportunity for us to grow in Nevada. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Anyone else here in Carson City who'd like to speak in support of Senate Bill 155? Okay, not seeing anyone else come forward. Down in Las Vegas, in support of Senate Bill 155, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Yes, my name is Ed Euling, Uhling, and I think it's the function of a police force or anything local is a local matter. It's not none of the government's business in Washington D.C. What qualifications are required. So it's certainly this should not only be permitted, but it should be expanded so other well-deserving immigrants can people that are here that are not citizens yet can participate in the society. Unfortunately, it was chosen to use the example of Fallujah, however, in this as indicating service to the country. Fallujah was one of the biggest, most horrible massacres and just demolishing of another people's homes and their lives and everything. And it's unfortunate to use that as an indication of service. Unfortunately, I know our country has killed about 22 million people since World War II in all these battles. They've overthrown about 41 countries' governments and provoked wars all over the world. But Fallujah is one of Fallujah is the My Lai of the Iraq debacle that should have never ever happened in the first place. So I think that's highly unfortunate. But I certainly support this law and expanding it to everything that we do locally. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. I don't see anyone else down there in Southern Nevada. So broadcasting, could we go to the phone lines in support of Senate Bill 155?
If you would like to testify in support of SB 155, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, you have no callers wishing to testify in support at this time.
Thank you very much, broadcasting. I'd like to now go to opposition. Anyone who's opposed to the measure who wants to be heard here in Carson City. We'll start in Carson City, then we'll go back down to Las Vegas. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair and members of the committee. My name is Jason, Jason, last name Woodard, Woodard. I'm with the Nevada Sheriffs and Chiefs Association. First, as a Marine and a retired police officer, I would like to thank Assemblyman De Silva for sharing his story. I'd also like to thank Senator Flores for the conversation and dialogue in regards to this bill. As it currently stands, the membership of the Nevada Sheriffs and Chiefs Association is in opposition of this bill. One of the reasons why is NRS 289 Peace Officers Bill of Rights also prescribes to law enforcement agencies the requirements involving backgrounds that must be met or the backgrounds investigations that must be done in order for agencies to lawfully hire and employ someone as a peace officer. One of those requirements is to establish that the individual is of good moral character. Now, I'm not asserting that any of these folks that we've talked about here today do not fall within that category of exceptional moral character. However, there is a challenge when trying to establish that history of background or that level of background when some information is not available to background investigators. Primarily, some of the information not available to background investigators would be information that basically is a break in that information that's accessible to that investigator because the individual took up residency in the United States midway or halfway through their life point. This can create challenges in order for us to complete a thorough background investigation and ultimately submit a background. Again, I want to thank Senator Flores for being open to this conversation or to dialogue, and we look forward to further conversations on this point. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair Orenshaw, members of the committee. Jason Walker, JASON, representing the Washington County Sheriff's Office, testifying in opposition to Senate Bill 155. I echo the comments that Lieutenant Woodard just put out in testimony and thank Chair Flores and appreciative of the candid conversations regarding this bill. Unfortunately, we're not able to get to a better position.
Pardon me, Mr. Walker, I have a question from Senator Daley.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just, when I was reading the section of the language, that existing language that says if a person is honorably discharged, may or may not be a citizen, are you guys denying those people if they apply because they're not citizens, even though they've been honorably discharged and the law says that they can?
Jason Walker for the record. Thank you for the question, Senator. I don't have the exact language in front of me, but when I managed our backgrounds investigation division, I believe that was one of the provisions that was set forth from Human Resources, specific to United States citizen prior to application.
And I'll read it to you again here, just if I can, Mr. Chair. So what it says right now in 281.060, only citizens or wards of the United States or persons who have been honorably discharged from the military service of the United States. So there's no rule that if you guys have a rule that's doing that, you're in violation of this statute, the way I read it. I was just curious if you know if you are or if you're not.
Jason Walker for the record. Thank you for pointing that out, Senator Daley. I will follow up when I get back and bring that information forward.
And pardon me, I have one more question from Senator Ellison.
I did not understand, but they did United States did a background check prior to going into the military. Is that correct? Yes. Okay, secondly, the military does a background check when they get there. That's 2. Then when they become a citizen, they have a background check. So I'm kind of confused that you guys will not allow somebody that now is a citizen of the United States with 3 background checks, you won't even allow them to apply to have a background check?
Jason Walker for the record. Thank you for bringing that to my attention, Senator Ellison. Just like I stated to Senator Daley, I will double check on my end and bring that information forward, but I believe that is the way that we have it written.
Okay, and would you please get that back to us? Because I think that needs to go to the governor.
Sure.
You know, I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. I'm just saying that when somebody went through that much to become a citizen, they've done everything in the world, I think, right. So anyway, sir, if you don't mind, I'd like to have that information brought back to me. Thank you.
Vice Chair Orange, I will follow up on
I
that.
appreciate that. And do you mind copying the chair and all the members of the committee too, if you're able to get that?
No problem at all.
Thank you very much. Any other questions, members? Well, we've got someone from law enforcement here. Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you very much. With that, down in Las Vegas, I don't see anyone coming up in opposition. I don't see anyone else in Carson City. Broadcasting on the phone lines, is there anyone opposed to Senate Bill 155?
If you would like to testify in opposition of Senate Bill 155, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Greetings, everyone. Cyrus, Hojjaty. I've heard a lot of great points from the testimony and support, and there's a lot of good intention behind it. We appreciate all the efforts and the service that was given by Ruben De Silva and I believe the state senator too. I'm just uncertain about crime rates. I just need to know if, has this been done before? And, has this had an effect on crime rates? So as long as, there hasn't been an increase in crime, I would not be in opposition. So I'm just uncertain. And I'm also curious about why hasn't this been also extended to firefighters? I mean, I think that's important too. I'm just curious because I was in Altadena just now and, oh man, heartbreaking. But anyway, thank you so much and thanks for your efforts.
Vice Chair, you have no more callers at this time.
Thank you very much, Broadcasting. With that, I'd like to go to neutral. Anyone who's neutral on Senate Bill 155 and wants to be heard, either in Carson City or down in Las Vegas? Okay, don't see anyone coming up. Broadcasting, is there anyone on the phone lines who's neutral on the measure and wishes to be heard?
Your public line is open and working, but you have no more callers wishing to testify at this time.
Thank you, Broadcasting. With that, Chair Flores, are there any closing remarks you'd like to make? Okay. Well, thank you very much for presenting Senate Bill 155. I appreciate all your hard work and Assemblymember De Silva and Mr. Velasquez's presentation. With that, I'd like to close the hearing on Senate Bill 155, and I'd like to open the hearing on Senate Bill 367. And thank you again for the presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am State Senator Edgar Flores, for the record, proudly representing Senate District 2, and I'm here to present Senate Bill 367 alongside Mr. Arturo Carmona and former State Senator Mo Dennis, who will be here mostly in a, let's see if I can phone a friend in case we can't answer a question. But just before I hand over the presentation to Mr. Carmona, just by way of providing everybody a little bit of a roadmap, I'll walk through a little bit of where the genesis of this concern comes from. Mr. Carmona then will walk through as an industry expert on how he believes that we can address the concerns that we have through this bill. And then he'll hand it right back over to me so I can very quickly walk you through the sections of the bill so that everybody knows how we're exactly addressing that issue. All of us had the pleasure of serving in this committee and/or in this building during great times, right? We've all been here where we've been working through very great times of history, and then a lot of us have served during COVID, which was very dark times of our history. And unfortunately, when we were going through the pandemic, one of the realities that became very clear was that not all communities were impacted the same. There was disproportional impacts, particularly in our rural communities and traditionally disenfranchised communities in general, communities of color, et cetera. And one of the reasons for that was because information did not travel the same and as quickly as we needed it. At times we were in directive number 5 or 6 or 7, and some of the rural communities were just getting directive 2. In such a fast-paced environment where there were so many things happening and we needed to get the information out, vulnerable communities were unfortunately left out. And we saw this with the rural communities, but in general, communities that speak different languages, the information was just unfortunately not getting there fast enough. As a state, we have a responsibility to ensure, particularly when we're all mandated to follow certain rules or to comply or to ensure that we are doing things in unison. Unfortunately, that was not happening. And one of the reasons for that is really how we were pushing out information is key. How we move information from point A to point B is crucial. And at times, just putting information out online is not sufficient because not everybody has access to the internet. The traditional approach of maybe putting everything in a newspaper doesn't work, or maybe the traditional approach of just putting everything in one specific language may not work. Perhaps we give a contract to a company based in Southern Nevada who doesn't have the relationship that they should in the rurals. And now they have a contract and they're supposed to be moving information to the rurals when we have a lot of companies or we have established well-recognized entities in the rules that they can be the ones to move the information out there. So what we look to address here specifically is that how information is moved in this state, and that we have the best partners and that we create a database of these best partners so that we can utilize them to move information in and out from different regions of the state. And that we utilize the best folk that we have in the rurals to do that, to approach the rural conversations, and that we utilize the best partners that we may have in other communities that speak Tagalog or Arabic or Spanish, and that we utilize them to move information. So that's ultimately the agenda COVID really put that front and center. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to our industry expert, Mr. Arturo Carmona.
Thank you, Chair, and please welcome Mr. Carmona. Please go ahead with your testimony.
Hello, Chair and members. My name is Arturo Carmona, C-A-R-M-O-N-A, and thank you for your work on a bill that is very important to our communities. I am the president of the Latino Media Collaborative. As a leading advocate for sustainable journalism, LMC has formed powerful collaborations with over 25 networks and media outlets representing over 100 TV, radio, digital, and print platforms. The creation of a community media program within the Department of Administration would help Nevada maximize the use of these community and rural media as platforms for the state's outreach campaigns. Unfortunately, many state employees who manage state advertising are not fully aware of the media outlets that could be effectively partners in the advertising campaigns the state sponsors. And many of the media outlets that could be valuable partners with the state are not well versed in how they can compete for contracts that place advertising in the media on behalf of state government, especially in rural and disadvantaged communities. The community media program would help remove these barriers by educating state agencies about the utility of advertising in community and rural media, and by informing these media outlets about the potential for them to publish advertising that will help their readers learn about topics that are important to their lives. One of the major priorities is making sure that Nevadans in rural and urban communities get accurate and timely information about government policy and decisions that affect their lives, from public health and emergency preparedness to access to benefits and services for themselves, their businesses, and their families. As you know, governments at every level, but especially the state, use outreach and advertising to communicate with residents about the programs and services that affect them. For that communication to be effective, it is crucial that it take advantage of these resources and the community trust and understanding before these outlets. Even as social media takes a larger role in the information economy, traditional media, including community newspapers, radio, and TV for many Nevadans is very important and critical, especially seniors and those in rural communities. Senate Bill 367 would give Nevada a chance to address this issue in a way that is mindful of the state's unique demographics, especially its strongly rural nature and the importance of senior communities. Thank you for your consideration of this bill, and we urge your support.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carmona. And Chair Flores, do you want me to go now to former Majority Leader Dennis, or?
Okay. Vice Chair, if it's okay with you, I'd like to walk through the bill very quickly, do a section by section.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Again, State Senator Edgar Flores for the record. Very quickly, and I know all of you can read, so I'm not going to read at you, but I just wanted to give you highlights. I don't want to get in trouble by Senator Daley. I'll very quickly just walk you through these sections. One of the larger sections is Section 2. The Section 2 creates the Rural and Community Media Program within the Department of Administration to assist state department and agencies in public outreach, public engagement, marketing, advertising in rural communities and historical underrepresented communities. It also lays out the responsibilities of the director, which will develop and maintain a database of rural and community media outlets in the state. Again, this goes back to the conversation that I brought up when we opened up the hearing, and ensuring that we have the right partners that are best situated to move information in the state of Nevada. Also, provide training, education, and outreach to the state departments and agencies about the importance of rural and community media. It also creates an annual report requirement. The director must submit an annual report to the legislature. And again, this is to ensure that we are utilizing the best partners. If we, it may come to our attention that we have a huge database of rural partners, and when we're talking about moving information to the rurals, we're not utilizing any of them. That would be a scenario that we would probably want to push back and ask for some feedback. Why are we utilizing these folk versus the folk that are best situated to better serve the needs and or move information in those areas? In addition to that, it also details what the report must include, which is information on the utilization of rural and community media outlets and any contracts or subcontracts within these outlets. Section 3 specify specific requirements for departments and agencies. Any state department or agency that spends money on public outreach, marketing, or advertising should, to the greatest extent possible, direct these expenditures to rural and community media outlets. The goal is to improve outreach engagement with members of the community served by these media outlets. There's also the reporting requirement, and then Section 4 just has definitions and applications that are already in existing law. And with that, Vice Chair, if I may open it up for questions, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair Flores. Members, any questions? Senator Ellison.
Imaginette. I'm trying to get the fiscal note to come up on here, and I can't get it to show up. Have you got it, Lisa, on yours? The problem I got is some of the media outfits out in rural Nevada has gone broke. You're putting another burden on top of them. Wells closed their unit. Windover's got 1 and 1.5. Eureka don't have anything. Elko's got radio stations and 1 newspaper, which is back east now. So then you've got Ely's got 2 radio stations and 1 newspaper that's real small. You start going up the line and there's 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. And when you're starting to do these reports and stuff on these, how are you going to do this? And number one, who pays for this? That's number 2. And is the state? I can't see no fiscal note on here because there's nothing here. Maybe you could answer that for me.
Absolutely. Thank you for that question. Through you, Vice Chair, to Senator Ellison, Senator Edgar Flores, for the record. And I appreciate your concern, but I think this it cuts in the other direction. And what I mean by that is we're not putting any type of requirement on the outlets themselves. The requirement is on the administrator. And what we're hoping to do is, for example, you mentioned in Elko you have a radio station and you have 1 print outlet. What they would do is they would voluntarily become part of this database with the administrator, so that the administrator at some point, should they need information to be moving in rural Nevada, do marketing campaigns, do any type of outreach to the rurals, that they, instead of giving the contract to, say, Company A in Southern Nevada, that they say, wait a minute, we have this radio station in Elko, or we have this print outlet in Elko, and we're trying to outreach in Elko. Let's utilize them. So this is to help those companies and those entities that are already established and have a reputation within their own respective communities, to give them an opportunity so that the state utilizes them. Because one of the things that we're concerned about, and that became very relevant during the pandemic, is that we were spending money on marketing. We were spending money on different vendors, but we weren't always utilizing the best ones that are best situated in the best location. And so in this scenario that you mentioned, if they were a part of this database, the administrator would have outreached directly to them and said, hey, by the way, I see your radio station out in Elko, Nevada. We need to promote this campaign. We have this much funding. We'd like to hire you. So this is to help them. And there's no requirement on those outlets to do anything with reporting or any of that. That falls directly on the administrator.
If I could add something really quick.
Yes, please go ahead. Although, Mr. Carmona, if you'd like to address the question, and then I can go back to Senator Ellison for follow-up. So please go ahead, Mr. Carmona. What I did want to just mention, I was told by our counsel, their fiscal note has not come back yet, Senator Ellison. That's why. It has not been returned yet from the Department of Administration. Mr. Carmona, please proceed.
Arturo Carmona with the LMC. Senator Ellison, as Senator Flores mentioned, the idea here is to really distribute existing resources, existing money that the state is already spending on marketing and communications, not to create a fiscal note. And like was referenced, what we've seen is that far too many state resources are going to digital behemoths that are impacting the local journalism economy. We share the same concern that you articulated, and we want to turn that tide back. So if the state is advertising on health or Department of Motor Vehicles, or you name it, we want local, rural, and community outlets to get the first, first in line of investment. I think we share the same concern as far as that particular question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carmona. Follow-up, Senator Ellison?
Yeah, there's several there's a couple, 2 to 3 stations out there, and usually each one of them's got 4 stations on each radio, so that's not a problem. The free press is a little different. It used to be the independent, but it went broke too, and so trying to sell advertising to some of these companies, if you're taking out advertisements, well, they'll throw out the red carpet for you. But it's the other way around, it might be a little more difficult. So anything we can do to help, we'll try. But like I said, Wells had a great little newspaper, and they finally just threw up the towel, and Wendover's got 2 online newspapers. Nothing is in print, one print, small one. I think it's 1 a week. But then, but if you start getting farther towards Pahrump, Hawthorne, Ely, Eureka, all that way, then it starts narrowing down, and you just can't put any more burden on some of them people out there.
Thank you. If I may, Mr. Vice Chair, Senator Edgar Flores, for the record, and I truly appreciate what you're mentioning, because this is exactly why we're having this conversation. And I would like to maybe invite offline for us to have a meeting with those particular media outlets, because in my opinion, when they see the intent of the bill, they're going to realize that this is utilizing the money that's already being spent now and asking the question, are we utilizing the right folk? Because as you know, in Elko, a digital print ad might not be the best way to reach some of those folk. It might be traditional newspaper. It may be radio, right? But the point is, you got to speak to them. And I think those folk out there, those outlets that you're mentioning, are going to be the ones to come back and give real feedback. If you want to come and speak to the folk in Elko, we have the winning strategy for that. So it's really helping them. And we'd love to have a meeting with them, all of us collectively, because I assure you that they're going to want to be a part of this.
Majority Leader Dennis.
Thank you, Senator Mo Dennis, for the record. When you push the button, it's hard, right? One of the things that this really can do is to help those organizations in rural and other areas that perhaps are struggling now because they're not getting as much work. This would actually even the playing field a little bit and allow them to be able to stay in business. And I would believe that in the future it would also help to maybe incentivize others to, if they see that there's going to be money spent in these areas, maybe they'll start up some new media outlets in those areas. So we view this as a positive thing to get that information out to those areas with the people that best know those areas.
Thank you very much. Senator Daley, I believe, had a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And part question, part comment. And you've already said part of this is advertising dollars that's already being spent for a variety of different public service announcements. When we had COVID, trying to get that information out there. So a variety of things of money that's already being spent. I think the intent on this is to try to get the best bang for your buck. Same as if this was private industry, for profit, they would absolutely be going and looking for how can I reach my target audience. And a lot of times with state advertising, it's everybody in the state. And then are you going to enough of the diverse outlets or different outlets to hit all the targets? Now, you can just go to one big one with TV and you're going to hit, but are you going to get down and drill down in the communities, right? And so I think, is that where this database is trying to get to? Because if it was private and you're trying to make a profit, you're trying to drive business or customers to your business, you're definitely going to use the right outlet and try to find it. And we're just trying to get the state to do that.
100%. Thank you for that comment, Senator Daley. Senator Edgar Flores, for the record, through you, Vice Chair. We specifically are addressing that concern. We have to be good stewards of the money we spend in this state. And presently, there are many marketing campaigns that are happening consistently and continuously throughout the year, every single year, because we have an obligation as a state to move information to all regions of our state. And by creating this database that is voluntary, you as the private entity volunteer to participate in it, you're putting yourself out there, you're raising your hand, you're saying, here's what I bring to the table. When you're trying to reach this demographic, here's how much I could charge, here's how wide of a net I can cast, and I think I would be the best person for that. What we fear is happening presently, and it's not intentional, is that we're consistently working with the same groups when we're doing these marketing campaigns and missing the opportunity to do things better, more effectively, cheaper for the state, and at the same time, maximizing and helping the outlets that, for example, Senator Ellison was mentioning that are out in Elko and would absolutely probably be the best folk to reach individuals out there.
One more thing, Mr. Arturo Carmona with the LMC. The component of the training is absolutely critical because of the spending is so disaggregated, department by department, public information officer by public information officer in each of the respective departments. We find that there could be very different perspectives on what efficiency means. And so what we're also saying is you should have a baseline training so that folks understand how to communicate with rural or urban centers or other areas so that you can increase the efficiency that Senator Flores talked about, so that folks are advancing a communication strategy that's really informed by what the best ways to communicate with our diverse community. So training is absolutely central to this policy.
Senator Daly, please go ahead.
Yeah, and thank you. And I think along those same lines, the entity that's getting the business, I mean, they're going to give you back a report and say this is how many people and all that kind of stuff. They're not going to tell you if they're not doing a good job. Generally, they're getting the business, right? But I think, and not like every state agency is going to be running or hiring marketing developers or any of that kind of stuff, because that's probably money that's not in their budget. But if they did reach out to some of these outlets, I think they would find out that, hey, they can probably reach a particular demographic for less money, more effectively, especially when they're supposed to be trying to get out across the strait. If you're trying to communicate with people about emergency management or fire prevention, right? You gotta talk to the people that are in the wildfire interface areas and know how to get to them, and don't waste your money talking to people in the urban core, right?
Thank you, Senator Daly, for that comment. Absolutely. State Senator Edgar Flores, for the record, through you, Vice Chair. That's exactly what it is. And we hope that a few years down the road after this bill passes, that Senator Ellison will come back and say, oh, I've had conversations with these different outlets, and absolutely they're doing a much better job moving some of this information. And I keep picking on you, Senator Ellison, but only because you know your community in a way that I am that I admire very much, because you're out there. I call you the governor of Elko, right? And I've upgraded you, but I think they respect the level of in-depth analysis that you bring to that community. You're really there and you're listening to the beating heart of the community. That type of human is who should be leading the conversations in Elko. And we're looking for outlets to do that. And we want to do that in every beating heart of every community that serves as part of the bigger beating heart of what Nevada represents.
Thank you very much. And one question I have, on Senate Bill 367, if this becomes law, do you think it might spur more, maybe community radio stations or public access television stations, or, we heard Senator Ellison talk about the dwindling number of radio stations and TV stations and newspapers. But I'm wondering if something like this might try to spur maybe neighbors or communities to try to start a newspaper, start a radio station or a TV station.
Arturo Carmona with the Latino Media Collaborative. I mean, that's the idea. The idea is to ensure that the resources that are being spent by the state really go to our local communities. I think a lot of that will rest, I would believe, in the way the program is administered by the governor's office and the program itself. But I think at the end of the day, that's the intent. That's the intent of the policy.
Thank you very much. Members, any additional questions? No, not seeing any. Thank you very much for the presentation, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Carmona, and thank you, Majority Leader Dennis. With that, I'd like to open it up to support for Senate Bill 367. Anyone who'd like to speak in favor of the measure here in Carson City, and then we'll go down to Las Vegas.
It's an honor to be here, and thank you for the hard work you're doing today. I'm here. My name is Tessie Angel Ramirez, TEISSYANGEL RAMIREZ. I'm in full support because I'm part of the outreach community, and I would love to see more language inclusivity, and I will also love to see that my community also gets a piece of a pie. So I'm in full support, so thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Please state your name for the record and proceed. Whoever would like to go next.
Good afternoon, Chair Flores and Vice Chair Orenshaw and all of the wonderful members of the Senate Government Affairs Committee. My name is Christine Johnson. For the record, that is CHRISTINE, and I represent Caliente, the seat of Lincoln County. For those of you who may not be familiar with Caliente, they have a 5-member city council led by Mayor Steve Rao and Mayor Pro Tem Sean Fitzsimons. They are located approximately 150 miles north and a little bit east of Las Vegas. The city of Caliente enthusiastically supports this bill. Efforts in this space have been promoted by the Lincoln County Authority on Tourism, and they have been doing an incredible job. The increased partnership by the state will only amplify LCAT's efforts. We appreciate the work of the sponsor to bring this bill forward, and we do hope that the committee will advance this important legislation. Thank you for allowing my testimony, and I wish you all an amazing day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Marco Rauda, MARCO-RAUDA. I want to thank the committee for listening to this bill, the sponsor for working on this bill with us. I want to thank my partner, Mo Dennis, for helping present the bill as well. I think this is a great opportunity for us to just be able to get more information to more folks in kind of the pockets where the information doesn't get to. So looking forward to hopefully this committee passing the bill in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please state your name for the record and proceed, sir.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Mario de la Rosa, MARIO-DELAROSA. I'm here to support SB 367. I used to be a newspaper owner, but during the pandemic, it forced us to close the doors. We couldn't print, and also we couldn't distribute the newspaper in case we printed. It was very difficult, so we couldn't restart the newspaper, reopened, because of the economics of that. It's very expensive to print a newspaper and to have reporters and everything that involves having a newspaper. So it is very important to bring this information to minorities and rural areas, information that might be in their own language. It's very important for the whole state to have people informed, benefits, opportunities, and information. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Good afternoon. Please state your name for the record and proceed. I'm so sorry. Your microphone was not on. I apologize, Mr. Castro. Do you mind? There's a little button. Oh, now we can hear you. Do you mind repeating your name and starting again? Thank you.
Arturo Castro, ARTURO, I am the CEO of HCI Advertising, which the legal name is Hispana Comunicación Integral. We've been here in Las Vegas since 1998. We opened our Hispanic ad agency at that time, and we are a full-service advertising agency that offers services from A to Z, from strategy to content creation production. And we've been impacted by this situation for 27 years. Every time that we are closer to get a contract, something happens. And because we've been demonstrated that our company has brought amazing results, there is a lot of information that can show that. But every time that we are trying to get a new contract or something, we are impacted with this kind of situation. We are part of the media. It's important to say that media, it's the outlet, but we are the guys, not bad, but we also are the guys that create the strategies, that create the communication, that create content. And in today's days, in the industry, they said that content is king, media is queen. So we work together as one. So that's why I'm here. That's why I'm support the bill. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your testimony, sir. Really appreciate it. And with that, I'd like to go to anyone else in support here in Carson City. I don't see anyone else. And down in, oh, yes, please come forward. Please state your name for the record and proceed, sir.
Hi, my name is Rogelio Regalado, R-O-G-E-L-I-O, R-E-G-A-L-A-D-O. I'm the owner of Fiesta 98.1 in Las Vegas, as a DJ as well. And I fully support this bill because this will help the local media up in Elko, or the local media that it's focused on minorities, for example, my station. So instead of going to, I don't know, a huge advertising agency that might use online sources that are not even in the state of Nevada. So this way, you guys will support local media as my station or the local stations in the rural areas. That's why I fully support this bill.
Thank you very much for your testimony, Mr. Regalado. Appreciate you taking the time to speak in favor of the measure. With that, if there's anyone else who'd like to speak in support here in Carson City, we're happy to take your testimony. I don't see anyone down in Las Vegas coming forward. So broadcasting, if we could go to the phone lines for testimony in support of Senate Bill 367.
If you would like to testify in support of SB 367, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Thank you. This is Brittany Walker on behalf of Boulder City. We are in support of this bill. We believe it will expand communication efforts to the rural areas. Thank you.
Vice Chair, you have no more callers at this time.
Thank you very much, broadcasting. Like now go to opposition to the measure. Anyone who's opposed to Senate Bill 367 and wants to be heard, either here in Carson City. I don't see anyone down in Las Vegas, and no one's coming forward in Carson City. So broadcasting, is there anyone in opposition to Senate Bill 367 who wishes to be heard?
If you would like to testify in opposition of SB 367, please press star 9 now. Vice Chair, you have no callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you, broadcasting. Neutral. Anyone who's neutral on Senate Bill 367 wishes to be heard here in Carson City? I don't see anyone in Las Vegas. So broadcasting, could we go to the phone lines neutral on Senate Bill 367?
If you would like to testify neutral on SB 367, please press star 9 now. Chair, you have no callers neutral at this time.
Thank you very much. Chair Flores, do you wish to make any closing remarks?
Senator Edgar Flores, for the record, I just wanted to say thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, and to all the esteemed members of the committee for allowing me to present the bill. But more specifically, I just wanted to come in closing and say thank you to all the different media outlets and small business owners that are here. This is a bill for them, and I appreciate them taking the time to meet with me, be here present, and for the folk who joined us over the phone. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair Flores, and thank you to all the co-presenters and witnesses who came to Carson City to testify. Thank you very much. Traveling a great distance to speak on the bill. With that, I'd like to close the hearing on Senate Bill 367 and pass the gavel back to our Chair, Chair Flores.
All right, members, thank you for that. At this time, I'd like to open it up for public comment. Anybody in Las Vegas or Carson City wishing to join us for public comment? Seeing none in Las Vegas or Carson City, BPS, do we have anybody wishing to join us over the phone for public comment?
If you would like to provide public comment, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, you have no callers wishing to provide public comment at this time.
Thank you. And with that, we'll go ahead and close out public comment. Members will be back in this room at 3:30 on Wednesday. This meeting's adjourned.